Okay, you sit down to study. You're in your favorite spot. You've got everything laid out. You've got your study materials, your water, your snacks. It's quiet, you're alert and ready to go. These conditions are perfect. You get started and things are going well, but then in 15 minutes you get this urge to check your email. So you spend a few minutes checking your email and then you get back to studying. No big deal. A few minutes later, a thought pops up about something you or a friend posted to Facebook last night, and you wonder if anyone commented. So you check your Facebook, and you get sucked into looking at everyone's updates just for a little while. No problem. You try to get back to studying, but this nagging curiosity pops up about something someone posted on Twitter earlier. So you pull out the web again and click on the link to read more, and you end up on this blog. And that leads you to a news story that leads you to reading about someone on Wikipedia that you've never heard of before. You wake up from your internet trance 45 minutes later wondering how you ended up on a Tumblr about when parents text. This is all from an urge to check Facebook. This may seem a bit extreme, but I'm sure that everyone has had days where you set out with a plan in mind, only to get sucked into doing everything but what you had intended to do. The frustrating part is the bit where you feel like you're completely out of control. Your brain seems to have a mind of its own, and the more you try to rein it in, the more it resists until you're exhausted. And when you're worn down, the paradox is that you end up doing whatever you were trying to resist in the first place. Everyone has probably learned the basics of good study habits, such as making sure you eat healthy snacks. Junk food doesn't really help you study more effectively. Get enough sleep. Get exercise, etc. You've likely also heard about setting reasonable expectations for what you can get done in a day, and you started to learn what your limits are for how long you can concentrate before taking a break. Well, here's one little tip that you probably haven't heard. It's simple, it doesn't take much time, but it can really boost your efficiency, not only with studying, but with anything you're trying to concentrate on, be it paying attention in class, or really listening to a friend or family member during a conversation. The technique is based on the core learning process that everyone has called positive and negative reinforcement. Let's start by going back to the study scenario that I mentioned earlier and look at what went wrong. Everyone has moments where they crave something, be it a favorite food or one quick peek at their news feed. Where do these come from? Let's use social media as an example. You decide to check your Facebook and see a post that makes you happy or excited, which lays down this memory. Oh, when I check my Facebook, I get something good from it. Later, your brain, which wants to maximize its reward, says to you, hey, this studying thing, it's pretty boring. Checking Facebook is much more exciting. So you get this urge to go and check it. And the more you do this, the more you reinforce this process. You're bored, which leads to an urge to log on, which gives you some type of gratification, even if it's just to scratch that itch. And this is true not only for boredom, but also for when you're stressed out, or you're anxious, or you're in a bad mood. Your brain says, hey, go check your feed. It'll cheer you up. So why should you care about this? It's essential to see what's driving your habits so that you can apply the proper fix. If you can really see your core processes clearly, you can work to effectively uproot them instead of just putting band-aids on them. The critical piece is that if you can see what's driving your behavior, you can precisely intervene at the right moment. Notice how the urges to do things are the problem here. Everything is fine just until that urge comes up. As I mentioned before, forcing yourself to stay focused doesn't work so well. Just wait till you're tired, the urges will win. So what can you do instead? There's a simple exercise called noting. It's called noting practice because you simply note to yourself what that urge feels like when it arises, and continue to note it until it passes away. It's similar to the rain exercise from the stress video. Simply noting what is happening in your body helps you avoid getting sucked into the urge. You can't note it and get sucked into it at the same time. It is impossible to fully observe something and be caught up in something. It's pretty simple. You can start with your 5 senses, seeing, hearing, feeling, smelling, and tasting, and then add thinking as a 6th. Then just notice which one is the most predominant at any moment. If you're walking down the street, there might be a bit of motion that catches your eye. So you can just note to yourself, seeing. A moment later, you might hear a bird, so you'd note hearing. If a thought pops up, oh, that's a bird singing, now you would note thinking, because that's most predominant in your experience at that point. Pretty simple. Perhaps the singing makes you feel happy, so now you just note feeling, because that happy feeling is most predominant. And you just keep doing this. A typical sequence might be seeing, hearing, feeling, thinking, feeling, seeing, etc. Each time you note your experience, this keeps you in the present moment rather than being lost in thought or on autopilot. Otherwise, it's just easy to get carried along by life, including cravings that sneak up on you. For example, that bird you heard chirping might lead you to think, oh, that bird is singing. It's so wonderful. I wonder what type of bird that is. Is it a warbler? Didn't I see a show on warblers on the Discovery Channel about how their natural habitat was being destroyed? I cannot believe people don't take care of the environment anymore. Some of my friends don't even recycle. I cannot believe that. And so on and so on. One moment you're happily listening to a bird's song, and the next you're angry at your friends. How did that happen? Autopilot. An untrained mind is going to run off in any direction it wants, usually getting itself into trouble along the way. So noting practice helps train your mind. It helps you to keep from adding fuel to the fire, whether it's a craving, anger, fear, or something else. When your mind starts running off, you note thinking, feeling, or even anger. This helps you grab that log you're about to throw into the fire so that you don't fuel it. Eventually, the fire burns out on its own. This is how you rewire your brain to change old habits into new ones.